Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. At the time I'm recording this, it is 5:49 a.m. Central Time, which is my time zone. It is Sunday, June 8th, 2025, and early this morning, XRP started jumping in price. Nothing completely crazy. Here's a 24-hour chart for XRP, but you can see if you have one functioning eyeball, you can see that it just rushed to the upside from about $2.17 up to $2.22, and in the last few hours it's been moving sideways. This is interesting though, because no other coin did this. If you go through, I'll just show you. Here's the top 11 coins by market cap on your screen here. This is a 7-day chart for each of these, and you can see when you look at XRP, you can see right there, like that's what just happened within roughly the last 6 hours. Didn't happen with any other coin. It's just out of nowhere XRP started jumping. So I don't know if that means by the time you're watching this, XRP has continued to the upside. Some analysts actually think so. I'm not pretending to know what the answer is, but one analyst even said, literally, and it's a quote, "It's time to break out." So we'll see. You know, as far as the analyst I file, it's kind of a mixed bag as far as whether or not it's more probable to have a pullback before continuation to the upside, or maybe this pullback we had on Thursday, a lot of analysts actually think probably that's enough. At this point, I'm seeing more analysts kind of lean in that direction, that the pullback we had literally just 3 days ago, that's probably enough, and now that we've seen that and it counts as a sufficient retest of support, you can just rocket on to the upside. And I'll just tell you, when this thing does get going, it is going to be absolutely wild. There is going to be one more major move for XRP this market cycle. It is not done. It's just absurd to think that XRP spent like 7 years consolidating, only to hit a new all-time high and just barely scrape above that for a very brief moment in time, and then just go back down and consolidate above $2, and then that's it. Yeah, I don't think so, folks. I think we're going to have another monstrous rip to the upside. So I'll share with you the latest of what many chart analysts are saying here, but it's good news regardless. Even if we have to wait, ultimately, all of them that I follow, I believe, yeah, we're going to continue to the upside, even if there's one more pullback before we get the final send-off. But before going further, I do want to be clear, I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. As I record this video, it is, XRP price rather, is $2.21. Bitcoin's at $105,529. And everybody noticed this morning when XRP started popping, because it just happened suddenly out of nowhere. It doesn't look like there's anything from a fundamental perspective that just prompted it. Sometimes these things just occur. And so chart analyst Crypto Insight UK noticed this, and he said, interesting. And this is at 1:24 a.m. He says, I wake up to see XRP green and squeezing up, whilst everything else is red. Yeah, exactly. It for good reason, caught everyone's attention, which is why, again, I say, by the time you're watching this, once I get it uploaded, and we'll see what happens throughout the day, maybe it is a big nothing in the short term anyway, or who knows, maybe it actually is running. You guys are future people, so you know better than me. Here's a post from Chart Analyst Cryptos. This is from 1:16 a.m. this morning. He noticed as well. He simply wrote, XRP pushing higher after reclaiming the neckline. Here's a post from Chart Analyst Steph is Crypto. He noticed this as well. This is at 1:55 a.m. Central Time. XRP USD chart here, and he says, bullish relative strength index divergence for XRP. Send it back above $3 with haste. So, yeah, I would love to. He seems to think that this is the one that's going to really cause it to rip. I hope so. We'll find out together here. Now, I'm still optimistic it happens regardless. It's just kind of a question of when, and he seems to think now. But by the way, he's not the only one that noticed potential very bullish price action in the short term. This is one of many examples I could have put up. I just pulled up because it's fun, because it's from Bitcoin.com of all places. Here's a headline. This is from yesterday. XRP price watch, momentum stalls, but breakout potential builds. And I don't want to read the article. I just wanted to point out, even their analyst here highlighted XRP is really primed. Really, from this moment, it could be experiencing a breakout. So who knows if this is the exact moment, but it's going to be coming sooner rather than later, in my estimation. Because we can't flutter around here moving sideways over. Like, XRP's been consolidating for almost all of 2025. It hit the all-time high. Love to see it. $3.40. Back down, and it's mostly been moving sideways. But to see it consolidating above $2, it's a true thing of beauty. This is the type of thing that we've been dreaming about for like the last decade. To consolidate at a level like this, this is what so many in the community have been dreaming of, including me. Like, it's actually here. And knowing that for each of the last 2 cycles, XRP had 2 separate major bursts and they're each about half a year apart, given that history kind of tends to rhyme with itself, yeah, that breeds optimism in my mind. Most certainly it does. I think we're going to have another massive one here, which is why all of these predictions that analysts have of XRP hitting double digits, not remotely crazy. I'm wondering if those lower predictions are going to be found to be way too conservative by the time this is done. We'll see here. Here's a post from chart analyst the great Matsby. This is an Ethereum USD chart, and he said, called XRP's breakout above the arc in July 2024, and it soared. Now I'm seeing the same setup for Ethereum. Once Ethereum flips the top arc to support, it's ready to rocket. And then in a separate post, he added, XRP proved that even heavily criticized assets can skyrocket when the time is right. With Ethereum facing a lot of negativity now, could it be next to surprise everyone? Yeah, and so this is a good point, and this is a point that I've been making consistently for a long time. You know, price in and of itself is not necessarily an indicator of the long-term viability or usefulness of a cryptocurrency. So when XRP was priced in the gutter for most of 2024, did that indicate that it was over for XRP? Did that indicate it didn't have utility? No. In fact, throughout the year, I kept pointing out XRP utility had never been greater. The fundamentals had never been stronger. It's never been in a better position from a legal clarity perspective. And we're in a bull run. So, it was just so obvious to me that the most probable thing once the market got hot is that XRP would rip to the upside. And it did. And I've been saying for months now, it's the same story with Ethereum. And when this bitch breaks, I'm telling you, like, it's going to go and it's going to set off an alt season. Historically, that's been the norm. I don't suppose that there's good reason to believe this time is going to be different. I think it's going to go much higher. A lot higher. In fact, take a look at this. And even if you don't hold Ethereum, this should be exciting to you. And not just because Ethereum historically kicks off alt season. But take a look at this post from X-Force Global. This is an Ethereum USD chart. He says, both of our hybrid scenarios have successfully played out. And the best part, we can now confidently scrap the bearish case. The impulse opened the door for potential new highs. And I'll pause to note, Ethereum was as low as $1,400 recently when it was in the gutter. And then it jumped up to like $2,700. And at the time I'm recording this, what is it now? A little over $2,500. So that's a big jump from $1,400 even to just be at $2,500 now. That's a pretty damn big jump here. So yeah, he's saying bearish case out the window. Now I never thought that. I never thought that Ethereum was just screwed. It's just because nothing changed. Why would I think that that Ethereum's screwed when nothing from a fundamental perspective changed or got worse? It didn't make any logical sense. It never did. But check this out. Here's the cool part. This is why I'm highlighting this. He says we're eyeing the $9,000 to $10,000 range as our final cycle targets until proven otherwise. Well, folks, if he's right, and that's a very common price prediction. A lot of people think that's conservative, but if Ethereum does hit $10,000 and XRP matches the market cap of Ethereum at that level, that would make XRP worth $20. You realize that, right? I will continue to shout that because that's not a crazy target. That is only roughly a 2-fold increase for Ethereum from its its current all-time high, but it's from the last cycle. So from the last cycle to this cycle, to go from like 4,900-ish, where it peaked last cycle, to maybe $9,000 or $10,000, that's roughly a 2-fold increase from top to top. That's not asking much in crypto, folks. And I'm just saying, there's historic precedent for XRP to gun for that number 2 spot in market cap. So if it does that, and even if it just briefly takes out Ethereum, you're looking at $20 XRP. That is something that in real life could happen, absolutely. I don't know if it will this cycle, but that is absolutely potentially in the cards. Here's a post from chart analyst Crypto Wizard. This is the crypto total market cap excluding the top 10 coins by market cap. And this is another analyst highlighting the same thing, showing that there's been a multi-year consolidation here for others. That's the name of this chart here, the crypto asset class minus the top 10 coins by market cap. It's called others. And so he says here, a wicked rally. This is Crypto Wizard. He says, the rocket is fueling up. Launch day is nearing for altcoins. The ascending triangle has nearly fully matured. Once it breaks, all of your others flies. And again, others being the name of the chart. So all those alts outside of the top 10 coins by market cap are going to go. And so there's a lot of confluence here. You can look at total too, which shows a pretty similar story here. He just happens to be highlighting others. But like everything's pointing in the same direction. Could it be more obvious in terms of what is most probable to occur? I probably not. Like it's ridiculously obvious. Here's a post from chart analyst Kaleo. I shared this with his 703,000 followers on X. It's a Bitcoin price chart here. He says, I once again am here to remind you as long as I can to be more bullish. This dip was a gift. And he posted this yesterday, and that's obviously a reference to what happened on Thursday when the market tanked. He says, and he's bold here, he says, new all-time highs next week. Ooh. Okay, so he seems to think no more dips. He thinks we go up rather than down first. I hope he's right. That's one of the most, full-throated perspectives that I've seen on the matter from any analyst that I follow. He thinks, no, we're not going lower. We're actually from here. That was it. We're actually going up. Okay, I hope he's right. But even if not, again, even if we go down first and Bitcoin hits like 95,000, not exactly the end of the world. Here's a post from chart analyst Zoom, and it's about XRP. It says there are two ways XRP can move from here. Number one, go back down to grab liquidity from $1.90 to $2 zone, consolidate, start blasting up for its final move. Or two, this is the second option, consolidate in the current zone and then start to make its final move up. I lean more towards the second scenario. So folks, he thinks that what's most probable, though not certain, is that we already saw the worst of it. That's enough of a liquidity grab moving to the downside when XRP on some exchanges got as low as $2.05 on Thursday. He's like, that's enough, probably. And from here, we're likely to just shoot onto the upside, and that was it. And so he says, before the dip we saw on Thursday, I mentioned that I expected a dump, and we got it. We did not get the $2 zone liquidity sweep, but we got $2.05, and it seems like that may have been enough. So again, I think we chop sideways for a bit more, and then XRP starts to make its move to the upside. I believe that would be the final move up for XRP. Folks, and the timing would make sense if it happens sooner than later. It really would. And if history is to rhyme with itself, which it tends to do, there's only going to be one more massive move. But in terms of dollars, that's going to be way bigger. It's going to dwarf what we just saw in November going into early December, and then finally hitting that all-time high in January. That's going to be dwarfed by this next one in terms of the dollar figure. That's what happened in each of the last two cycles. By the way, the second pump was bigger, more aggressive in terms of dollars. Now, in terms of return on investment, well, it depends on where you bought as to whether, what's more exciting to you. If you bought before all of this, then you're going to be way more excited for the second pump. If you bought after the first pump, well, then ROI-wise, obviously that won't be as impressive as it is for anybody that had purchased before that first pump in November. But either way, it's going to be a lot. If history rhymes with itself, like it's gonna change people's lives. Crypto Insight UK put out a new newsletter, just came out, and I want to share with you the portion where he was sharing what he thinks about XRP. He seems to think it's actually more likely we could be going down first, but he has very strong opinions here that he believes XRP will be hitting double-digit price action regardless of this market cycle, and he thinks there's a very good chance that XRP will end up peaking somewhere between $20 to $30. He has the same opinion as chart analyst Credible Crypto on that, actually. But anyway, so here's what he said in his brand new newsletter. He says, looking at the XRP liquidity chart, I believe we're likely to see a continued pullback. Since the recent low, many traders have been adding long positions, thinking they've caught the bottom after the sweep of the lows at $2.08. However, with liquidity growing denser around the $2 mark, I suspect that traders are front-running too early and will likely get flushed out. And I'll pause to note here when he says liquidity growing around that $2 mark, what he's saying there is there's a lot more people with buy orders ready to snatch up cheaper XRP if given the opportunity. There's a lot there. And then he says, It would be ideal if we could see bullish divergence form on XRP, where we make a lower low in price action, but a higher low on the RSI. That would be the exact type of price action I'm looking for. It would offer a solid sweep of the densest area of liquidity I've seen for XRP in a while. On the flip side, we can also see that short positions are building above us as liquidity continues to stack up. This makes me think that if we do get this liquidity flush, it sets up a perfect scenario for a more aggressive move back to the upside, clearing out all the lows below. From there, we can focus on pushing the price much higher. And so again, this is the cool thing. It's like, even with me looking for diverse perspectives from analysts and always happy to share whatever the most negative perspective is from the analysts that I follow, the most negative perspective I have is this, and it's not even negative. It's like the worst case scenario I'm seeing put forth from analysts. Like, this is pretty much it. It goes down first, but then it goes way higher. Oh no, I'm scared. Ooh. And so obviously Crypto Insight UK, even though he thinks it's most likely we do have that pullback first, he's still obviously mega bullish on this. And that's why I'm just highlighting, like, I'm calling this the most negative I can find. It's not even really negative though. So again, anytime I can find an opposing viewpoint where somebody's like, no guys, you're all wrong. Here's why the charts say that XRP is going to go do so-and-so. Always happy to highlight those opinions. They don't exist other than something like this, but again, this isn't even particularly negative. Here's a post from Chart Analyst Greg Crypto, XRP USD chart. He says, XRP, tick-tock. It's time to break out. So folks, he does think this is the moment. He posted this at 2:30 a.m. after XRP did start moving. And he says, the key micro signal, just 3 daily closes above $2.22. When that happens, it's showtime. XRP family, stay steady and strong. Together we rise and we shall fly so high. Well, I don't doubt that. I hope he's right. I hope it's sooner than later. But even if we got to take a dip first, whatever. I'm just warning you, it could happen. So if it does, you don't have to freak out. It would just be normal. Like, nobody's actually terrified if something like that actually does happen. But as I wrap up the video, XRP $2.21. I don't know what it is by the time you're watching this, but I don't know. Maybe we'll get lucky. It'll actually be running here. But on a Sunday, of all days, it's going to run on a Sunday? I don't know. Maybe not. We'll see. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.